We're live!
Yay!
Habari gani?
Umoja.
So, hi everyone. Welcome back to Onyx Pages. I am in Jerry. This is my special guest. What side are you on? This is my special guest, Sherri, the lovely, the beautiful, the intelligent, the tangential, which we will get to shortly. Sherri from Obsidian Texts and Tangents. And this is the first of the cozy Kwanzaa reflect-a-thon lives because listen, 2020 did it. It continues to do it. And it's important for us to not only be in our reading, be in our writing, be in our creating, but also to be gentle with each other and gentle with ourselves. So while I am so close to like wanting to press pause, put on the makeup, put a head wrap, and do all the things, I'm just not. It is about just being authentically in the moment. Yes, I am on my bed, may or may not have underwear on. It's all a thing. So yes. So for those of you who have never participated in the Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon before, the purpose of the Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon that I started in 2018 is to provide the bookish community with an annual opportunity to reflect on the things that we have read in the past year, maybe to think about as we're getting our lists together for 2021, think about what reading goals we might have, maybe think about what we've learned in the past little while, maybe make some new friends, get some new thoughts. And for the first time, you're so cute. For the first time, by the way, I was only talking about myself when I was talking about like, you know, not spending the time. You look stunning. So what we're going to be doing this year is for every day of Kwanzaa, we are going to do a live show. I will have a guest and we will reflect on the principle, and it will really be more about my guest talking and not necessarily about me. I'm so thrilled that Sherri is with us today. Sherri is a fellow booktuber. Sherri is also an in real life friend. And so it's very important that you're here with me. And you're also somebody who celebrates Kwanzaa, like on your own. So this is like this, you're not being introduced to Kwanzaa through this, which is pretty exciting. So I thought maybe we might start by just talking about maybe like what Kwanzaa means to us and how we got into it. And I'm actually curious to hear from you on that. So why don't we start with that?
Awesome. Well, and Jerry, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I haven't participated in Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon before because I'm relatively new to the YouTube community, but I'm excited. And on the first day, Umoja, Unity, I got started celebrating Kwanzaa actually relatively recently, about 3 years ago. I was visiting a friend for New Year's, and she was celebrating Kwanzaa. I got there a little bit before, obviously, and then she was celebrating Kwanzaa, and we had a whole thing around Kwanzaa and around the principles that that I was present for, and manifesting and releasing the past year and things like that. So that's how I started getting into Kwanzaa. I've been slowly learning about it and more over the past 3 years. This is the first year I actually have a Kenora, and I am lighting candles and things like that. Usually, or the past 2 years before now, I've spent it reflecting during the 7 days. And then on the last day, I traditionally that's when I'll make my vision board and have all those principles very present in mind as I move forward manifesting for the next year and beyond.
Cool.
So what about you?
So I started I don't even know when I started celebrating Kwanzaa. It's been a while. It's at least a decade. But I've celebrated it in different ways over the years. So over the past, I think 3 or 4, I'm thinking about it in terms of my relationship with Tomi, because I think we set up an actual like Kenara and the mat and like everything. We've done that for I think about 3 years. And then prior to that, I was living with my parents. So it was more like an intellectual kind of thing because their home is like a very sort of Christian home and they didn't want to be like putting up altars and lighting candles and all that kind of stuff in their space. But I've been celebrating it in my own way for about 10 years and then more formally through the Kwanzaa reflect-a-thon, like on camera for 3 years, and then maybe like 5 years in our home. And every year it's a little bit different. So every year I spend time thinking about the principles in a different way, thinking about how I can actualize them. So one way that I celebrate is by putting Facebook statuses up on each day where I reflect on the principle. So the first principle is Umoja, which is unity. And I know that we have, like, for those of you who are new to Kwanzaa, there are 7 principles. It runs from December 26th to January 1st. And each of the days reflects one of the principles, and it's the same principles every year. And the principles are defined the same way each year. So today's principle is Umoja, and I'm just going to read the definition of Umoja because I want to know for you, Sherri, like I'm curious about like what the principle means to you, and also if you'd like to share how it might have connected with your reading this year. So Umoja, let me just get to it on my phone. So Umoja means unity in Swahili, and it's defined as to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. So what does it mean for you this year, and how does it connect with your reading?
So for me, even outside of this year and in general, connectedness and like seeing the connections between people, times, things is like a core value of mine. And so, and along with that, it's important for me, like in how I think about community, to prioritize community over self. And in that, it is very important to feed self, to be able to better serve the community, but centering the collective. And so when I think about collective or unity, that is central to how I think about that. And so this year has been a special year for all of us. And I have actually seen that in ways that was certainly unexpected because I'm a hardcore introvert and do not open myself up to meeting strangers often. And so I've had several occasions this year, including my relationship with Njeri and some of our other friends, where we've been able to come together during this time and really form a cohesive group that prioritizes each other and our collective selves, and feed into that very intentionally and purposefully. I also prioritize that in my other relationships, but I think this year has been special to me because I've done that with people who I haven't known for the past 10 years, you know? So that's been very interesting and special to me.
Yeah, and I think it's, I think for like the BookTube is a community and it has a bunch of sub communities. And I think for me, what's been really unique this year is the fact that I actually like took the leap and thought purposefully about my friendships in the bookish community, my relationships with like other readers, my relationships with writers, my relationship with Black queer writers and Black heterosexual writers, and my expectations. So even things like arcs, how I've responded to arcs, like requests for reviews, I like created a like a template set of priorities that I send to anybody who wants to send me a book. And I'm like, okay, if you would like me to accept an arc and read it and review it, you need to agree to these 7 things. And one of those things is I'm not going to read a book that doesn't have queer characters, and I'm not going to read a book that doesn't like obviously address issues of homophobia, transphobia, and so on. And because I basically read like Black writers, this is about unity, right? Because it's striving for that sense of like connectedness and accountability amongst Black peoples, and in terms of how, you know, I encourage people to spend their money, how much of a platform I'm going to allow people to have on my own channel. And also like even in terms of the things that I'm attracted to and the things that I read, I am attracted to stories that are about collective groups of people and things like that. So do you want to talk about any of this?
That was a great transition. Speaking of, yes, I really want to talk about the book that I chose to for this principle. Eventually, we will see a video of me talking about all the principles in a book for each. And I was really intentional about not repeating a book for multiple principles. That was like the goal that I set for myself. Luckily, I finished The City We Became, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. That is what I'm using. Nice. Have you read it yet? Have you read The City We Became?
Sorry, let me just adjust this light. Tomi is being amazing. I was like, Tomi, I need illumination. Quick, help.
Help the melanin.
Help. And she's here. So
hey, Tomi.
Hi.
There we go. Let me just.
I love a Tomi voice cameo. It's my favorite.
So do I. Okay, that's better. Here we are. Yes, thanks, baby. I love you very much. Okay. I have not read The City We Became.
It's amazing. So I will, and also for others, keep my thoughts spoiler free, hopefully. But I really enjoy the story a lot because it's about unity on so many levels. It's great. Okay. And in keeping with how the Kwanzaa reflect-a-thon kind of frames thinking of unity in, I'm not going to get the quoting right, but in uplifting or in centering people of African descent in the unity and upliftment, I really enjoyed it. So it's set in New York, if you didn't know. It's by N.K. Jemisin, who's amazing, whom I love. And it is really about the different people who live in New York, and with those, like, these different archetypes of the kind of people that live in each borough and how together they make up New York. I won't go into more details because we'll keep the mystery there. But in doing that, because it is New York, a lot of these individuals are of African descent in some way. And it was amazing. It was a good time. But I did have several books that I could have used for this principle, because it is a principle that I too really enjoy in my reading. So I often look for stories. I mostly read stories that I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy. So a lot of them have this theme, or it's a part of the characters and the plot.
Mm. And then, you know how the definition of Umoja talks about like unity in the family, unity in the community, and then the third one is family, community, fourth, family, community, nation, and race. And in terms of your reading, it like in terms of like those 4 different ways in which unity presents itself, do you find that you're attracted to one or more of those over any of the others?
I would say well, I'll tell you right off the bat that like nation is out of the four nations is going to be one that I don't really seek out. So when I consider the African diaspora, I do not enjoy the like diaspora wars that happen. So I also don't associate like the stories I'm looking for don't necessarily center the Umoja on a certain nation so much as like a community of peoples. I like when that's divorced from like the politics of borders, and also race because the it's a priority of mine. The Obsidian channel name is on purpose. And then so community and race I think are the two that I most predominantly seek. And then because often what results in that also includes family and family relations, especially if it's good character development, because you can't often understand a character in their entirety without understanding a bit about their family. Yeah. But yeah, I can't tell you which one I prioritize most, but nations.
Yeah. Well, the nations are constructs in a lot of ways, right? Like, yeah, that's interesting. I think for me, if I look at unity in the family, and because I read science fiction and fantasy, and I know that the majority of your reading as well is science fiction and fantasy.
Right. Yes.
So that, you know, the nations and races, depending on what kind of things, like if you're reading fantasy, they're all like, they're often constructed, like they're just sort of made up.
I mean, they're made up here in reality too. So
that's also true. I think for me, I am most attracted to stories that talk about maintaining unity in the community. And unity in the family. And I also find that I'm attracted to family relationships when they're the subplot. So you mentioned N.K. Jemisin, and I've only heard maybe one or two people describe the Broken Earth trilogy as a mother-daughter story, a story of a mother and a daughter. And when I read the trilogy, that is what stood out for me more than anything else. This is a story of like a mother-daughter relationship that has been broken, misunderstandings, harm, and some kind of like repairing and reconnection. And I think that a lot of stories written by Black authors right now have a lot of mother-daughter, you know, mending their relationship subplot. And so I find that thriving and maintaining unity in the family is the thing that I'm most attracted to right now.
That's very interesting. So if just so everyone understands, I'm 100% here for the Broken Earth trilogy.
Yes.
It is like my favorite, like the 5th season is my favorite book. I'm trying to, I'm going to just say the Broken Earth trilogy is my favorite trilogy. That way I can leave space for as a singular standalone book. But honestly,
I love how you're like, you know, making sure that you can like reserve space.
I've been negotiating with myself. But I would not have, like, in discussing the book, I would have definitely prioritized that in the conversation. But I'm not sure if I would have initially described it as that. But when you said that, I had a paradigm shift in my brain, and I'm like, yeah, and in its simple, like in its most like essence, that is what that story is about. So that's cool. Also, when we're talking about family, I really like unity family stories that center found family.
Yes. Talk about that. Speak on it.
Favorite. You know, we don't get to choose our blood relations. So that's one thing. So I'm really here for a found family story, because as someone who is antisocial, social club, and I really enjoy watching other people's story about the families they've created through the people they've intentionally chosen to be in their lives. Because I believe in putting a lot of intention towards that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I do in my life. I like to read about other people doing it. It's a good time.
Yeah, I want to get to some of the comments, but I like the point that you make about chosen family.
Mm-hmm.
There's an echo, so I'm wondering, maybe can you go on mute while I'm talking, and then I'll do the same? I'm not sure if other people are hearing the. Yeah. Okay, that totally got rid of the thing. Okay, so let's look at some of the comments. We're gonna go way back in time. Okay, I think I had hey from Cabe. Okay. Hi. Hello. Miss Erica. And you cried. So, Cabe, I don't know if you have commented on why you cried earlier or if you wanted to share anything here. So I'm assuming that it's on your video. So everybody, if you're not subscribed to any of the booktubers in the chat, please do subscribe. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, a lot of people are newer to Kwanzaa, which is cool. Thank you for joining. Hearts. Also that. Hi, Tati. I feel that hardcore introvert, and this time has definitely allowed me to reflect on relationships for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's already been said. Feliz Kwanzaa. Thank you, Alba. Okay, so that's a question that I threw out to the group. So in the chat, there are 18 of you here. Well, 16 besides Sherri and I. Name a book you read this year that reflects the principle of Umoja or unity. Leave a comment in the chat and we'll shout it out, which we are doing now. Hi, Bree. Yeah, the principle. Yes, Imani is an interesting one. We shall get to that. First time celebrating Kwanzaa. Thank you for this live stream. You're learning this year. Awesome. Yeah, unity and family, for sure. And for me, like, I identify as a queer person, and it's, many people who are LGBT have experienced being separated from their family. So I was separated from my parents for almost a decade. We didn't speak very much at all during that time period, and that was a very significant time period in my life. And so that makes things like holidays complex and all sorts of different things like that. And so, like, separation and estrangement, and then reconnection, all very important things. Yeah. Binti and Pet. So have you read both of those, Sherri?
I read Binti. Pet is on my to read list. I was about to say watch list.
Okay.
Like, those are like television shows or movies in my head, so sometimes I use the wrong word.
It's all good. So what are your thoughts about Binti as a trilogy, or if you're just talking about the first Binti as a story that reflects Umoja?
Oh, that is one of the. So I think for me, in my okay, let me start over. I read Binti this year, so it was definitely among the books that I considered for the 7 principles. For me, I'd read stories this year that to me felt like it had the principle more strongly present and was like more intricate to the story. Binti, to me, there was a lot of more independent, apart from the community responsibility and work and uplifting. It was very Binti centered, I guess, and intentionally. And I think that for me was great. I love that trilogy. P.S. There's a mini story. If y'all read the book separately, like I did, there is a 4th mini novella, just word to the wise. But yes, so that's what I thought. What do you think?
I would say that there's Binti doesn't, and Erica, I'm curious about why. So if you can put your thoughts in the chat too. I think Binti showed us the consequence of not being unified and showed us the importance of that. I think that there were elements in the story. So like the relationship between Agu, the like the fishy character, the jellyfish person character. Yeah, that character. Yeah, and Binti. I think their ability to develop a relationship and support each other after the like, you know, cataclysmic event that happened in the first book was very important. And then also the notion, like the concept of harmonizing in and of itself, to me, is a manifestation of a principle of unity. So there's a scene where there are wild dogs in the desert, and there's a harmonizer, and the harmonizer is able to protect himself and Binti from being attacked by these wild dogs. And in that moment, Binti realizes that harmonizing is more than what she realized it could be, the potential of that. And so I think that is an example of like unity as magic, unity as technology, unity as balancing equations and things like that that were interesting. And then Pet, which I've read, is definitely an example for me, like of unity. I think the whole, I think the town in Pet is called Lucille. I could be wrong, but you know, the whole idea of getting rid of the monsters and having to deal with the recognition that the monsters might still be there in the town of Lucille, and what Pet and her friend Redemption have to do in order to, like, you know, address a harm in the community. It calls their family members, it calls their community to think about accountability and how important community accountability is in order to ensure that we can be unified. So like they're like the key crisis, right? So Pet is about a character who lives in a city that believes itself to have been rid of monsters. It's not. And so Pet has to do something about it. And so obviously there's a question, how does the community respond to the reality of monsters? And that calls into question how unified that community actually is, and unified in terms of family, because their family is definitely a theme that gets troubled in Pet. So does community, not so much nation and not so much race, but Emeze was very careful in their character selection and in crafting the communities. So there are queer people, I think there's a polyamorous couple, there's a character with a disability, there are different kinds of love, different kinds of art. And so like, I think for me, Pet is definitely a book that calls up those concepts for me.
Also, I just thought of Amzi Uni in Binti. Yeah. That's a good like unity example in that story too. Also, I want to go there, so if it's real and y'all can hear me, I'm available.
So Cordelia, Sugar by Bernice McFadden. So I think Tati's in the chat. Tati, I think you read Bernice McFadden. I know that Dee Dee from Brown Girl Reading reads a lot of Bernice McFadden. I do not. So yeah, Cordelia, say more about that. Coffee Will Make You Black by April Sinclair. The first had unity in parts, but more so in the second book. Cool. I've heard a lot about Bernice McFadden, and thank you for those examples. You haven't read Cabe.
Oh, my friend, come join us. It's a good time.
So judging you, loving you, also judging you. And so can we support Cabe? Where should they start?
The first thing I read was fifth season. Okay. That's what I read and fell in love, and then immediately finished the trilogy.
Yeah.
I am. So basically, then I read The City We. I don't know if I have advice on what order, because I just think that she's great. So I feel like you could start anywhere. Yeah. I'm also one book away from finishing the Inheritance trilogy. A good time. You could start there also.
Yeah, I feel like you can start anywhere with N.K. Jemisin. I think but if you want to learn Jemisin, I would recommend that you read in chronological order, which would be with what Sherri just said, the Inheritance trilogy, then the Dream Blood duology, which people don't talk enough about, and then yes, I haven't read that yet, and then the Broken Earth trilogy, and then the short story collection. And I think that's a really good way to start, because Jemisin is a master world builder and is exceptional at epic fantasy. And so if you like in-depth world building, like technical world building, like political, spiritual, intergenerational, generational, interesting, like magic and cosmologies, like if you're really ready to get into the thick of fantasy in that way, then I would suggest the Inheritance trilogy, and then keep on going from there, because her style changes. And yeah, the opus that was The Broken Earth was just stunning. But I think it's even more it's easier, and I think it's more brilliant to witness after you've read some of her other work, because you just see how much she developed, and she started from an exceptional place to begin with.
I still remember the day I started fifth season. Like, that's how much that book was like, whoa. I started, I was like, wait, let me start over.
Yeah.
Just read it again. Also that, and then when you start, okay, just message me, okay? And then I need to be involved.
Yes. Yes, you are offering your companion services. You have lots of support, Gabe. Okay, and then All Boys Aren't Blue. You've read that, Sherri. Speak on it.
I was saving that for a different day, aka tomorrow. But yes, I love that. When I was deciding, I was deciding between 3 books for today, and this was one of the contenders. I had a really hard time, and it eased it up because of how you centered Kujichagulia. Like that, I was able to. I was like, oh, we still get to be on the list. It's fantastic. But yes, I agree. Unity, especially since they write from such a space to create unity among Black people, young Black queer people, young Black queer male identifying people. I think it's very central to the memoir, and the memoir is also great, so everyone should read it.
Denise. My family's been trying to celebrate Kwanzaa more and more, but also the book that makes me think of Umoja is Raybearer, because we see Terasai form this found family, and it meant everything. Have you read Raybearer, Sherri?
Okay. Oh, yes, I have.
Sorry?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Speak on it.
I agree. I agree. This was also a this year read. I listened to it on audiobook. Also fantastic. Also highly promote reading it. And the reason why I enjoyed it so much is exactly what Denise said. The found family in that story with Terasai is so well done. And it's so good. Yeah, I saved her for a different day also. But yeah.
And also shout out to my girl Noria from Chronicles of Noria, who interviewed Jordan Fueco, the author of Raybearer. So you should, if you're not subscribed to Noria's channel, change your life, and also take a look at the interview. Is awesome. Thanks, Denise, and Yes, Pet was. Also, hello, and hope you are too. So you thought of this as in, what's a book that has brought unity? And after reading ABAB, I think I found myself connecting with other queer. Is that All Boys Are Blue? Is that AB? I think that's what ABAB. I think I found myself connecting with other queer readers, especially on Bookstagram. Oh, so the actual act of reading it was very unifying. That's great.
Which is great. I feel like John was just living into the purpose of him writing the book.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I find that with controversial books, and not that All Boys Are Blue is a controversial book. I don't know it to be, but I think that controversial books can also bring people together in critique, in communities of literary critique, which BookTube is, or parts of BookTube are. So I think that can be very unifying, and I'm glad that people were talking about it on Bookstagram. I'll shout out the Octavia E. Butler Slow Read, which Sherri is a part of, and many of you are participating, and just reading everything that Octavia Butler has written slowly and together also is quite unifying, like literally with hundreds of people around the world, right? So that's quite phenomenal. So thank you for bringing into the conversation, Cave, the idea that it's not only the characters, right, but how the book can operate as a unifying force. And a lot of books have done that this year. Go ahead.
Speaking on that, I want to just take a minute to shout out the fact that I thought about this earlier when you were speaking, but then I forgot because, my mind. But Quarantine Pages this year was also which our host and Jerry, fabulous brainchild of, was also a very salient example of unity. And you brought so many people together during this time who wouldn't have had the opportunity, wouldn't have spoken, including you and I. That was just so amazing of you, just creating space for that unity to happen. And as a result of that, I know a lot of relationships have formed and have continued past the duration of the read along.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was it was an intended outcome, but I couldn't imagine what it would lead to, right? Like I didn't realize that when I started, I didn't realize that Quarantine Pages would literally change my life. And it did. Like it changed my life. It changed my experience of the pandemic. But it also changed my community in a very positive way. You and others. So thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, and Jerry, that is one of the reasons why I chose it. Okay, so we're now talking about Binti, but just on a simplistic note that she is a harmonizer and she tries to bring peace. I have a Umoja vid coming, so don't want to give away a lot. Obviously, we have to go to Cabe's channel, we got to go to your channel, we got to go to Erica's channel to watch all of these great videos, which is awesome. And valid perspective, Cabe, yes. Making you want to reread Pet. That's a good life choice. Absolutely. Okay. And Alba, you saw Umoja reflected in several nonfiction books I read this year. Which ones? Very curious. Thank you for that. Definitely Pet was a book that spoke to the concept of unity for me. Thank you. Welcome. At Kamanu. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but thank you. Oh, so McFadden is a love of yours. So feel free, Tati, to speak on the topics that were the two books that were mentioned. I think they're the first two books in a series, I think. Yeah, you're new though, but still, you should have read Jemisin. No excuses. Oh, so maybe you guys can, Tati, you've not read any Jemisin?
Tati, what? Friend. It's okay. It's okay. She's already has plans to rectify her errors. It's fine. We're forgiving. Unity and Jerry. Unity.
So I really like how strategic Tati's comment was here. The admission came after the plan, right? So I'm starting the Inheritance trilogy. So we get all excited about that, and then we're hit with the reasons why.
She knows who her audience is, and
this is now turned into the why haven't you read N.K. Jemisin live show.
Also, Tati, when you start reading, I need you to text me. See, like, you gave me, we can form a group message. I just need everyone else to walk me through their reactions because I had a lot of them.
Yes. And I want to say, so I read the trilogy twice, with several years in between each read, and it was a different read because I don't remember plots very well, or character names and things like that. What I would recommend is a hybrid read, because the narrator for the Inheritance trilogy on Audible is exceptional, and I think the texture of the gods, like in terms of the voice and the narration and acting, brings the story to life in a way that I did not appreciate in the first, when I read it with my own like sub vocalization. So so consider that as well.
I'm gonna put like a second and a third on that. I've been listening to them from the library on Libby, and the voice acting is very good.
Okay.
It's very good. My goal is to finish the last in the trilogy this week so that I finish it before 2021. So I've read all of them in the same year. Yeah.
And the solar-powered Afro-futurism slow reading group read the first book in the Inheritance trilogy in 2020. We're reading the second one in 2021, and then the third one in 2022. So we'll be talking about that. Okay, so y'all might be a bit biased, though. Obvious, 100%. This is a fact.
I mean, if you go to my YouTube channel, the bio says that I'm an N.K. Jemisin fangirl. So, I mean,
so it's admitted up front.
If I could make a pin, I
would. Hey, Didi, how are you? I'm just gonna love on you because Didi's amazing, and Didi is on her way, I think, to becoming a lover of science fiction and fantasy. Isn't that what we would say, Didi? Despite the fact that it's not your thing, I appreciate how supportive you've been of the stuff that Onyx Pages does. Didi's channel is a channel definitely that if you, I'm sure everybody here is already subscribed to it, but I think like your knowledge of like Black literature as the founder and originator of the hashtag Read So Lit, and also like the community, the Black Booktube community, I just think that it's the stuff that you read is very important and foundational in African American literature. And so thank you for joining the chat and saying hi. And you're taking notes. It's very good. Yes, Didi is here. She just turned Bridgerton. Ooh. Have you watched Bridgerton yet, Sherri? Okay. So let me just talk about Bridgerton for a second. So Bridgerton is it's a Shonda Rhimes creation. Tomi and I have started to watch it. We've watched 2 or 3 episodes now. It is really wonderful. But it's what Nisi Shawl taught me, called Afro-futurism, which is when you recreate the past in a way, so it's retroactive, so it's African-centered, it's retroactive, but it's set in the past, and had the past been what was imagined, our future would have been different, right? So while there's definitely an argument for like, yes, England in the 18 whatevers had a ton of Black people like this. Well, in that particular show, the queen is a person of color. I don't think that happened. But had it happened, the aristocracy would have looked different. The descendants of the aristocracy would have looked different. And so like definitely class politics would have looked different. But there's an element of like mundane fantasy in that, right? In Bridgerton. So just wanted to say that if you haven't watched Bridgerton, it's very interesting. And I'm also right now reading Cinderella is Dead. And Cinderella is Dead feels, there are elements that feel like Bridgerton a lot. So cool. You're also new to NK Jemisin. Well, welcome to the NK Jemisin Appreciation Hour. And you'll be getting into it. Great. Make sure you text Sherri, because that's now part of the reading experience.
That's what I'm requesting.
You're laughing. Hey, Tati, there's loving happening. Hi, is NK Jemisin also something for someone who isn't into fantasy? So, Grinsalem, I think the answer is if you read NK Jemisin, you will find yourself becoming someone who's into fantasy because she's that great. But I think what would you say to that? Because
I would say
it's not high fantasy.
It's not high fantasy, but I do think that it is complex enough. Like it's complex though. It's not like high, like there's no dragons yet that I've seen. But listen, I think I may be biased, sure. But I do think that it's a little bit it may be a little bit too complex for someone who isn't ready to get into fantasy. So if you're not a big fantasy reader now, but you have a strong interest, like the interest needs to be there, because you do need to be very like intentional about the plot and the character development. Like Injuri said, that there's a lot of development and world building that happens. And if that's not something you're into, then you're going to maybe not enjoy the story. So
yeah. And I would add to that it depends why you're not into fantasy. So if you're not into fantasy because your brain doesn't like to suspend disbelief, then there's that's incurable, right? Because fantasy requires that. If you're not into fantasy because you find it confusing or because you don't like dragons or like whatever it is, it depends on why you're not into fantasy. And by like high fantasy, what we're talking about is dragons, right? Like very fantastical worlds, like fairies and puff things, and like, you know, plants that can kill you, and like everything is just very, 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 very different. And like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz is like high fantasy versus something that is more mundane fantasy, like why can't I think of an example? What would be something that would be more mundane? Like those shows where almost everything is normal except for one little element, right? Like one character can fly, like for no reason, but everything else seems normal, right? That would be something that wouldn't be as like high fantasy. I see high fantasy as the degree to which you have to suspend disbelief in order to participate in the story. I don't know. So I guess it depends on why you don't like, why you're not into fantasy. So I would say that. Also, hello, hi, welcome. And I lost my place. Where are we? There's a lot of LOLing, play.
While Injuri is looking for that, I just want to tell y'all, when Injuri said, what's a more mundane thing? For some reason in my head, all I could think was mermaids, and which is not where she was going for. And I was like, that's not gonna be helpful. But to me, that's more mundane than like gods walking among us. But for some reason, that's all I could think of was mermaids.
But actually, you're right. Like, you're right. There are stories that are where like mermaid stories where most of the plot takes place on land, and there's like one mermaid who's like interacting with everybody else, and everybody else is living a life that looks very much like ours, right? But there's like this one otherworldly element out in the sea over there that everybody's like, ooh, what's going on there? Like that would be something that would still be fantasy. I can only think of movies like Beasts of the Southern Wild would be an example of like a fantasy, but that's not high fantasy, or Fast Color, or
Fast Color was so good.
Fast Color was such a stunning movie. Yeah, such a stunning movie.
The other thing I could think of, because I watched it yesterday morning, was Jingle Jangle, which is also a movie instead of a book.
Yeah. Well, it's I guess when we're thinking about high fantasy and low fantasy, it's the imagery, right? That really kind of makes the difference in my view, and maybe the complexity of the world building. But yeah, this is all getting into like genre discussion that is so exclusive. Like it's so elitist anyway. You couldn't resist. You started watching and had to finish. You've already finished. We have to watch the rest of Bridgerton for sure. That's why you didn't start. We're having a whole Bridgerton. Yes, thank you. Zero.
She is definitely glasses goals, okay? There's just like, you now have a collection, and every time I see a new one, I'm just like, I'm gonna need to get some new glasses. These ones are fine, but I'm like, I need some new glasses now.
Yeah, they're fun. The ones you have suit your face. I like it. But the thing is, like, these are cheap glasses, so for me, I was like, I would never buy these as my main glasses. So like, if I find something that has like $12 frames or whatever, then I'm gonna try that, and then I'm gonna try to see how it works on my face before I invest more, because I have a very intense prescription. You're gonna love it. Still Bridgerton, cool. You loved it. Lots of Bridgerton love. Hey Bree, says Erica. You read it so fast and dragged on the last chapter because I didn't want it to end. I thought you were talking about Bridgerton, so now I don't know who you're talking about. Hi Erica, says Bree. I want the UK cover of Ray Bear. Oh, maybe it's Ray Bear in addition to the US cover. Very nice. Same. So you're working on Wild Seed for the THR Bookathon, and I'm already shook. THR? What bookathon is that? Also,
join us in our readathon.
Yeah. Also join us, and also, what's a bookathon? I'm very excited about these words. So cool. Wild Seed, awesome.
Also, when I said our, did you hear me say our readathon? Like I'm involved.
You are involved.
I'm a participant.
You are involved. You are
a very involved participant.
Claim it.
But
yeah, the unity and parable of the sower.
I haven't gotten to Parable of the Sower yet, so please don't say anything.
Okay, I won't say anything except that yes, 100% agreed. Yes to quarantine pages. Oh, there's so many comments. Quarantine was so, thanks everybody. That's very lovely. Lovely. So much love. Emotional. Grab the tissue. Oh, wow. This is so lovely. You found most of all through quarantine pages.
Hard saying.
Book 2 of Inheritance Trilogy, wonderful. Slay by Brittany Morris has elements. So read, love, listen. Also, like, amazing picture. Your eye shadow in that is just so beautiful. So yeah, say more about Slay. I haven't read Slay, but now that because of my friends, have a Nintendo Switch and play Animal Crossing, I feel like I can appreciate the gamer world a little bit more and appreciate the story Slay a little bit more. Have you read Slay?
I have not read it yet. It's on my list.
Okay, that's definitely one.
It was like, I had a very long wait time at the library when I tried to check it out.
That's a good thing.
Because I read almost everything from the Libby.
Tati laughing. Okay, there's like lots of laughter. I know you haven't read Jemisin, Dee. This is known. The question is, Dee, is that going to change in 2021? And if the answer is no, are you persuadable? And if the answer to that is no, okay, fine.
I was surprised you said okay, fine.
I was gonna say more, but then I remember who Dee is, and I was like, no, I have to stop now. Respect boundaries. Slay hit my heartstrings for sure. I love how well crafted that was. Not sure what you're referring to, but had a hard time getting into her other books. Yeah. Curious as to why you had a hard time getting into other Jemisin books. Yeah, I have suspicions. And I wonder why. The Inheritance trilogy, the first time I read it was actually quite difficult. It actually felt, because it was technical, the fantasy world was so technical. I actually compare it to like Lord of the Rings, like big world, big epic, big world, Dune, big world, right? So you have to be ready to like supplant everything else with big world. And so that's how I felt. But I'm curious, read, love, listen, as to why you found it difficult to get into Jemisin. Audible is great. You're going to be rereading the 5th season. Loved it. Yes, expect. So you know what to do. Contact Sherri so Sherri can be a part of your reading experience. Number 1 read of 2020. I don't know which one that was.
I think that was the Ray Bear.
Ray Bear. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the only book we've been talking about in here. Hey.
Or Slay.
Slay. Okay. Cool. Okay, laughter, speak your truth. Thank you. Don't know about what, but I thank you. I will continue to. Oh, yes, it's supporting. Yes. Should I watch this? Couldn't get into Bridgerton. I liked her other show better with a Romeo and Juliet storyline. What other show was that? What other show did Shonda do with a Romeo and Juliet storyline? I'm curious. Period drama is not seeing enough Black people. Well, you'll see Black people in that for sure. Yeah. I don't know if Nisi Shaw has written about it, but you should definitely check that out. And if you're interested in Afro-retrofuturism, some recommendations would be Everfair by Nisi Shaw, Black Odds Drums by P. Jelly Clark. Let me just go through my mental library for a second. A Dead Jen and The Haunting of Tram Car 015, P. Jelly Clark. To a certain extent, The Water Dancer. The last third of The Water Dancer has Afro-retrofuturist elements, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, okay. Arturo Schomburg's biography, Diasporic Blackness. He sought unity in several organizations, political, educational, cultural. I love books that talk about the civil rights period in the US or other African liberation movements around the world that focus on unity, right? And actually acknowledge that there were lots of different communities. Like there were queer people in the civil rights time period. People say that Martin Luther King's speechwriter was a gay man. Haven't actually fact checked that, but you know, it's if that's a thing, then I have questions, but also that kind of stuff happened all the time, right? So cool. Okay, we're getting to the end of our hour. You're working, excuse me, I am working on a story that is doing that. Look at all the writers up in here. Cool. Yes, feel free to reach out if you have questions, and then I will promptly point you to other people who know things, because I know like a one thing about Afro-retrofuturism. I can talk ad nauseum about the one thing that I know. The world building is advanced. It took me a few rereads to read it. Okay, you thought you needed a dictionary. I think that's Inheritance trilogy. Okay, where do we go? That's what you're looking for now. Dragon Prince, Luna She, hello. Charmed with magic. The Dragon Prince. I'm liking this. Witcher. Solitary, despite the title showcase how important unity was for the Angola Three. Their friendship was so strong. I cried when one of the members passed. Alfred Wood Fox's autobiography. Perfect. Okay, A Phoenix First Must Burn. Great. Yeah, there are mermaids of size in one of those short stories. Yeah, I really enjoyed A Phoenix First Must Burn. A Song Below Water. So that's a nice mermaid sister story that I haven't read yet that I wanted to read in 2020, because I'm all about Black mermaids and have been for a very long time. So I'm glad that you see that as an example of that, like an alternative universe Portland. Okay. Oh, you were talking about Slay. Awesome. Ray Bearer. Shh, Daddy, I haven't either. Why did I think I said THC? I'm confused, but that's okay. Readathon. I found about it when I checked out your pictures. Oh, okay, cool. Let's see. Okay. Please do. Don't. Okay. I think we're close. I want to say we're close to the bottom. Let's see. Oh, you're going to start with Jemisin? Sherri, take it away.
Yes!
You did it.
Convert. Let's go.
So what do you recommend to start?
I'm so biased. Like, we discussed this already. So where did you say to start with the other person you recommended?
I like deep reading. So I like reading chronologically in the bibliography of the author, because I like seeing the author develop, and I like the little Easter eggs that authors will drop in like subsequent books that are throwbacks to other ones. But I'm not sure Didi has an interest in reading everything that N.K. Jemisin has written, so I don't know that that is going to be the best recommendation. Tati said start with The City Born Great. The short story, and yeah, I think that's a good one. But what do you think, Sherri?
I was gonna like right after you got done telling me like that about the reading order, I was gonna say The City We Became. It is part of an ongoing, I think, trilogy.
Yeah.
And it's the first book, and it's the only one that's published yet. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue for you, Didi. I mean, I personally don't usually like starting a series that isn't completed yet, but I've broken that rule for both NK and Nettie already. So I'm just like, because I trust them not to disappoint me. Yeah. And also to finish the trilogy.
Right.
So I would start there. I think that so far of the trilogies that I've read, because I haven't read the duology yet, The City We Became is the most approachable, like right off the bat.
Right. Also, Emergency Skin. Emergency Skin is an e-novella that N.K. Jemisin wrote through Amazon and Tor, I want to say. And I don't know if it's the same world, but Emergency Skin, I think that there's an element to the story, if I'm judging your reading interests correctly, there's an element of the story that I think you might like in Emergency Skin as well. So it's available as an e thing. Yes. I heard Brittany talk about Slay in that way. Brittany, who is the brilliant Brittany from Melanin Eclectic, who has the 2021 reading planner, which is showing up in every single one of my things. Yay! This side. So that's Brittany. This is her reading planner. There will be a few available. It's currently sold out, but a few, depending on your timing, will likely be available in the beginning of 2021. If you don't have yours yet, you should get it. It's amazing. Yes, you're welcome for the compliment, and unity of family and friends in real life, for sure. Okay, consider. Okay, you guys are organizing a buddy read in real time. Love it. Still star-crossed.
Oh my gosh, it's unity.
Yeah.
In motion.
Okay. That's thank you for the catch. That's amazing. Tommy's walking around. March on Washington was gay. The organizer of the March on Washington was gay, Bayard Rustin. Thank you. Thank you. They both sound interesting. So do it. Didi, this might be your year for Black science fiction. You know, this is my ultimate goal, is to convert you to be a Black SFF lover. P. Jelly Clark, I'm not sure what you saw, but what I've read so far of his work, it's not scary. So The Haunting of Tramcar 015 is about a ghost, but it's not scary. And it's not even a little bit scary. So it's like it's objectively not scary. Nor is The Black God's Drums, also not scary. Okay, and then looking everything up, very cool. You don't know about conversion. That's okay. We don't have to start with conversion. We can just start with, like, you know. exposure. Yeah, exposure, then like immersion, then maybe conversion. I don't know, but like this is the beginning. It's fine. Okay, we have come to the end. Thank you very much, everybody, for your participation. We are going to start the way we began, which is with Sherri. You're all here, all 25 of you plus us, because we are celebrating Kwanzaa. It is the first day of Kwanzaa, Umoja, unity. If you're interested in participating in the Kwanzaa reflect-a-thon, there is going to be a giveaway of the aforementioned Melanin Eclectic Planner. To enter into the draw, you need to post a video in which you select at least one book to talk about for each of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And you have to be subscribed to my channel. You have to use hashtag Kwanzaa reflect-a-thon so we can find the video. And then you will be entered in the draw to win one of the 2021 planners. And if you're not interested in like participating in that way, there are lots of other ways that you can do it. You can come to the channel and join me for the live discussions that are going to be happening from now until January 1st. You can also participate like amongst yourselves by, thinking about how your reading can better reflect the principles or what principles are important to you, or to support other people who are celebrating Kwanzaa, even if it's not your thing. It's not a religious celebration. It's a cultural one. It's a political one, at least it is for me. So definitely think about that. So Sherri, is there anything else that you would like to say? You have the last word as the guest for the first cozy Kwanzaa Reflect-a-thon live show for Umoja Unity.
That's amazing. I would just take this opportunity to reinforce the encouragement of you all really truly reflecting over the next 7 days on how you have seen these principles show up in your life previously and in the past year, and how you can be intentional about including them going forward if you have not previously been intentional about them. And then specifically for Umoja, aka Unity, how are you actively performing unity in the spheres in which you have influence?
You had the last word. Thanks everybody for watching. Bye. Happy Kwanzaa.